Hey everybody, it's David. Once again, another story from aliens, hippies, and other weirdness. This one here is about a maid cafe. They're real big in Japan. Girls wear costumes, real cute girls stuff, things like that. This one actually, a little backstory here. Me and my wife first got together. I had a dream that she was wearing cat ears and making waffles, and it was raining oranges. And that's been like a running joke between us ever since. Take this hat off because it's hot. But this and the word waifu means wife. It's anime fan term. But this one's called Waifus and Waffles. I hope you enjoy it. Please come again, master, Kita said with a small bow. She was a young woman who had recently celebrated her 22nd birthday. She had long white hair, brilliant blue eyes, and on top of her head were a pair of feline-like cat ears and a long furry tail protruded from the base of her spine. She was a race called a Belcarian. Circumstances had brought her to Earth, which incidentally happened to be the safest place for her. The beautiful young woman was wearing a very strange outfit, or at least strange for living in the back of Arkansas. When you think rural Arkansas, the last thing you think of is a maid cafe. But that's exactly where she worked. Mystic's Maid Cafe. Once the customer's gone, she breathed a sigh of relief. It had been a long day. The first customer of the day had been a total pervert. He had intentionally knocked things over so Kita would have to clean them up. Then, after he left, a party of rowdy high school boys arrived. There were other girls that worked at the cafe, but Kita was a fan favorite. Her meek demeanor and fine features, coupled with her strange accent, made her popular. She was also extremely kind to any of the customers, even the ones she hated, and there was more than a few that she hated. Some would try to pull her tail or stroke her ears, even though the rules stated not to. Are you okay, kitty cat? One of the other maids asked her. She smiled and nodded. Yeah, I just wish he would get the hint. I am not interested. One of the others cocked an eyebrow. Really? Could it be maybe you already have someone? Kita's face turned pink as she blushed. One of the others cocked an eyebrow. Kita didn't have a boyfriend or anything of the sort, but she did have a close friend whom she admired. It was less than being in love, but more than a crush, or so she told everyone. In truth, she was head over heels for the guy. Well, I have a friend, she admitted sheepishly. One of the girls began giggling. I know who she likes. Kita's eyes widened in surprise. Okay, girls, announcement time, the owner said as she emerged from her office. She was tall and thin. She had long black hair with blue tips. Everyone assumed she dyed it. In truth, she was actually a demon. She wore colored contacts to keep people from seeing her crimson irises and snake-like pupils. Lucille only employed non-humans. Her crew consisted of lamias, sirens, succubi, a couple of gorgons, and Kita, the alien cat girl. The cafe was based on one Lucille had visited in Japan. It was a theme cafe that featured maids, most of them in costume. But Lucille made sure it was a safe place for her girls to work in their true forms. It's time to add some new items to the menu, so we're going to hold a contest. Each of you is to come up with some item. The winner gets an extra week of paid vacation, plus an all-expense 2-week paid trip to wherever you would like. For you and one other person, she said with a wink. All the girls cheered excitedly. Kita, however, sighed dejectedly. She may have been a wonderful waitress and host, but she couldn't cook. Just do your best, one of the other girls told her. She smiled and promised him she would try. The door opened and all the girls bowed. Welcome, master, they said in unison. Kita! A young blonde girl cried happily. She rushed across the room and hugged Kita tightly. Kita picked her up and kissed her on the cheek. Daddy said I could come see you. Behind the girl was a man in a long black trench coat, wide-brimmed hat. He had short, dark hair and a wide smile. Kita saw him and her heart raced. The two of them looked at each other for several seconds before speaking. Well, Carsey and Gail are doing the wedding preparations, and Car had to work also. Well, Sarah said something about you being hungry. Kita noticed that he was holding a bouquet of flowers in a small box. I'm sorry I wasn't here for your birthday. Hopefully I can find a way to make it up to you, he said, handing them to her. She blushed and smiled. One of the other maids led Matt and his daughter to a table. Keita stood there admiring the flowers. They were large yellow roses, the ones she loved the most. Keita, come sit with me, Sarasea called from her booster seat. She smiled and obliged the toddler. What can I get you? She asked, taking out a pad and paper. Matt ordered a hamburger and some fries. Sarasea got a waffle and juice. Mommy made pancakes, but I don't like pancakes, she said resolutely. Matt smiled and nodded in agreement. Me either, sweetie, he said with a wink. I like waffles with marmalade, Sarasea said happily. Marmalade? Keita asked him confused. It's a type of jelly made from oranges and their peels. She adores the stuff. So do I, he admitted with a sheepish smile. Keita smiled sadly. Baby, we don't have any marmalade. Sarasea smiled and shrugged. Okay, syrup will work then, but only if you cook 'em. Keita makes the best waffles, she told one of the other girls. Really? Lacey, one of the Lamias asked, raising an eyebrow. Well, now that is interesting. Keita's face brightened and she hurried to the kitchen. Matt had taught her how to cook waffles. Her face darkened when she thought of their last weekend together. There had been very little cooking involved. So have you told him yet? Lucille asked from the doorway. Keita jerked in surprise. Told who what? She asked quickly. Lucille looked at her and smiled. Honey, I'm a lot of things, but I'm not stupid, she said quietly. Keita, you're pregnant. Keita dropped the bowl of batter she was mixing. Her eyes filled with tears and she began hyperventilating. Lucille quickly led her to the office and closed the door, and it took several minutes to calm her down. How did you know? She asked, wiping her eyes. Lucille smiled and shook her head. Honey, you keep touching your stomach and smiling. I'm guessing you haven't told your folks yet? Keita shook her head. No, I'm afraid Daddy's going to be disappointed. Matt and I aren't married, and it could be years before I have the baby. Lucille looked at her confused. My race is one that can stay pregnant for years. We don't have to have the baby right away. There are certain conditions that must be met before the fetus will develop. I can stay pregnant for over a century, and I won't get pregnant during that time, though I'll still have receptive cycles. Lucille smiled and patted the girl's hand. I got lucky during my captivity I didn't have one, but my first night with Matt I did. It was just so nice to make love to someone. It was nice that for once I wasn't being forced. I wish that my first time really could have been like that. Lucille squeezed her hand. Those other times don't count. Keita looked at her confused. Those times before Matt? They don't count. Think of that time with him as your first time. I can tell that man loves you. He comes by every week to check on you. Keita peeked out the door at him. He was helping the other girls in the kitchen. His sleeves were rolled up and he was cooking. Order up! He cried happily. Keita smiled and watched as his co-workers surrounded him. He had taken over the grill and was cooking furiously. So what are your intentions for our little kitty cat? One of them asked him pointedly. Because if you're just stringing her along, we don't care who you are. We will hurt you. Keita covered her mouth as she was overcome with emotion. Well, I'm glad you asked, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. In accordance with Riscosian law and Belkarian tradition, I plan to ask her to marry me. I mean, if you guys approve. I still have to ask Harold and Quino. Keita's heart skipped a beat. The girls all let out a collective gasp and cheer and began chattering. Keita closed the door and began sobbing. He wanted to marry her. In her culture, she would have been considered damaged goods. She had been sold into slavery and abused. Matt had saved her and never asked anything of her. It had started slowly. They had started out as friends, and over time, she had fallen for him. Now 2 years later, they were dating and she was pregnant. On Belkar, she would have been shunned and maybe even killed. But Matt didn't care. He accepted her. Not only that, he truly loved her. He wanted nothing more than to make sure she never felt fear again. She had fallen for him the moment they met on that day so long ago. So what did Carr and the others think about it? Lacey asked him with a smile. Keita and Lucille hid and waited with bated breath. Carr was the one that picked out the ring, and Cale and Carsey picked out the diamonds and sapphires. It's going to be a huge wedding as it is. I'm already marrying 3. I might as well add another one. But what if she says no? Lacey asked angrily. Then I'll go on with my life, but that won't change anything. I'll still protect her and care for her just the same. Keita burst into tears at his kind words. After she calmed down, she returned to work. Sarasea noticed she had been crying and was concerned. Are you okay, Keita? Did somebody hurt you? She asked. she asked angrily. Keita shook her head. No, baby, I just got overwhelmed. The child nodded and kissed her on the cheek. Well, I love you. Daddy made me a waffle, she said, sounding upset. It's not as good as the ones you make, and I told him that too. Keita laughed and hugged the small child. Matt rolled his eyes and shook his head. Well, I'm sorry. I can't cook as good as she can, he said sarcastically. The two of them began playfully bickering back and forth. Matt smiled broadly. Keita could see how much he loved his daughter. You know, you should add that to the menu, he said, looking at Lucille. You should have Keita make waffles. Call them Waifu waffles. You could do different shapes. Keita grabbed the sign-up sheet and quickly jotted the idea down. A week later, the cafe had a new dish. It was simple, yet highly popular. Orange kitty cat waffles. The waffles were shaped like a cat girl and smeared in orange marmalade. And even though she left Earth a few months later, until the cafe closed down years later, orange kitty waffles remained the most popular dish. And that was Waifus and Waffles. The book's dedicated to my mom, but that one there I dedicate to my wife, because if it wasn't for her, this book wouldn't exist. If you're watching this, Elizabeth, thank you. I love you.